What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. I'm Andy the Middle Aged Gamer and this is the officially licensed HK417 Delta Gen 2 GBBR from VFC. This has been a long time coming, nearly a decade now since its original release worldwide of the Gen 1, and has been on the market approximately about a year to a year and a half as a Gen 2 worldwide. It did get released, how can I say, unofficially in 2020, back in the height of the pandemic where everyone was in lockdown, so it only really saw an Asia release. Now this comes in 3 SKUs. You have the Delta, the CQB variant, which is on the table. You have the A2 16-inch and the A2 20-inch barreled versions. There's really not much difference other than the shape of the handguard and the length of the barrel. Everything else is pretty much the same along the way. I will note that KWA does make a GBBR, and I am a big KWA fan, but I will tell you to avoid that version of the gun. Yes, it's ambidextrous on controls, but the amount of money you will invest, it does suffer with the Gen 1 VFC problems of very inaccurate, very inefficient with its gas, and just completely, a waste of your money. Now, before we get into this, let's ask, what is the 417? Well, the 417 is basically H&K's big brother to the 416. Chambered in 5.56 for the 416. They needed a full battle rifle, cartridge, let's say, which is the 7.62 NATO. And so everything needed to be beefed up. And this is what you get. The 417. An absolute amazing piece. Now, the Delta is based off of the Assaulter variant in Europe, as we call it, which is your CQB, and the Delta being the US and UK variant of the weapon. It is currently in their, armories, but is seen very little use due to the fact that the concussion and the real steel of this is ridiculous, and the overpenetration of a 7.62 round in close quarters is, again, a bit overkill. A lot of people now are, going to the PCC or the pistol caliber carbines, stuff like your SMGs, MP5s, etc., MP7s now with the smaller rounds, and generally just going down that way. But that doesn't take away from it that this is an absolutely beautiful piece of kit. Now, I haven't done much to it. As you can see, I just shoved a nice, big, wide aperture red dot on there and some rail covers on it, as I wanted to keep it as natural to what comes in the box as I can. And obviously, I have put it through its test, and we will go and take it outside and shoot it down range, as you would say. And so, with that being said, let's zoom in and take a closer look at the 417 Delta. Okay, so let's do what we always do and start at the rear of this and move our way to the front. Now at the rear, as you can see, you have the Delta stock, or the club foot, or elephant's foot, whichever way you want to call it. You have this lovely, big, chunky stock that provides a comfortable cheek rest. You have dual sling mounts here at the back that are nylon polymer. If you want to use them, go right ahead. You do have a traditional sling loop going through. Now, my best bet would be put one of those slings traditional through this if you're going to run it with the stock as is. But that's entirely up to you. For me, you have this lovely texturized rubber, butt pad here at the back. And believe it or not, this is one where, the wider the stock, the better and the more pleasant of a shooting gun this is. Because of the recoil on this thing, and yes, she does recoil very strong. I think this is probably the strongest recoiling gun on the market at the moment for a gas blowback. I've seen very little come close to it. It is just ridiculously fun. But because of that, you really do need this wide texture. How would you say, if I can turn this gun without banging the camera too much? As you can see, you have your wide rubber textured, butt pad at the rear. Now, like I say, it is really important that you have that on there because it spreads the recoil load at the back of your, shoulder as it's banging into you at really strong force. I had a slimline stock on this for a while, and after around about 6 mags, your shoulder was aching. After a full day of gameplay, you really will feel it in your joints. It's not a pleasant exercise. So keeping this thick, how to say, rubbery butt pad on the back is a really good idea. It is fully adjustable. You can adjust the length of pull exactly to you without a, let's say, care in the world. And if you're like me, you like to keep your, how to say, supplies or any little bits in hand, you can twist this towards yourself like that, take off the rear, and in the back you have your full-on little storage compartment there, which is currently taken up with your buffer tube. You have your crane bits. It's quite good, and you can lock that back. As you can see here, we have the H&K markings embossed in, which is quite nice. The actual adjustment button is here at the bottom, and again, it's sort of flush with the lower end here, so you can easily push it to adjust it, and it can't accidentally get bumped by your sling, which, believe it or not, I've seen so many times people with these lovely Magpul ones with a big trigger bar out here, and they just get banged and your stock's out of it, your length pulls off, and you end up losing the shot. So it's really cool how they keep the, how to say, real steel ergonomics into this. So with that, let's move a little bit further forward. Okay, so now moving forward, as you can see here, there is no rear sling plate at the back of the receiver. You can fit one. There are many companies out there now that are actually supplying them full of, how to say, proper steel, which is really nice. I've currently got one on order and should arrive soon. It's a ambidextrous plate for the rear. It's 2 minutes worth of work. It's just undoing the castle nut, taking off your buffer, sliding that one out and putting a new one on, just reversing the steps. So it's nothing really complicated, but you can do that if you wish to mount one there. To be honest though, it's not really what this gun's for. You may not be shooting as many rounds down range as you would with a 5.56 variant of the gun. You'll be mainly taking accurate shots and intimidating them. Now, moving slightly forward, you do have their H&K A2 style grip. As you can see here, you have this finger shelf halfway up, just like a traditional AR A2. The difference being this is more wider, more fuller, and it provides you with an ergonomic grip. And even though it has the finger shelf, it really doesn't interfere with your grip. It's quite nice. This whole gun just being huge and, how would say, chunky means that you do have that, how would say, comfortability of ergonomics already. So everything's just huge. You don't have your enlarged, how would say, trigger well due to the fact that everything is just huge on this gun, and so you don't need the bow here. You do have enough room to put your gloves on with your armor protection on there and still clear the trigger. This trigger is a single stage real steel mil spec trigger in there, along with the fire group inside, and we'll show you that when we get to opening up the gun and showing you the heart of it. Now, you do have a ambidextrous fire control, which is full size as well. You have a nice positive tactile set into full and semi and safe. It currently isn't charged, so it won't go to safe, just like the real steel. And with that, like I say, it's an absolute brilliant piece of kit, and it's easy for you to get. And because it's full size, a lefty can easily use it without having to worry about the scalloped versions like you get on modern civilian ARs. You do have your paddle release here at the top. It's your only control. This gun is not ambidextrous. You can hold down at the bottom and lock the bolt to the rear if you wish. You don't have ambidextrous magazine release. It is standard, which is, again, more simpler it is, the less things to go wrong, is my saying. Now, with that, you do have your flared and enlarged and slightly angled mag, your improved magwell. So if we lift you up without making the gun fall over, these are your 20 round gas blowback mags. Now, as you can see, if we can get them lit up, you have your HK417 caliber 7.62x51 20 round mags. They do fit 20 rounds. This nylon polymer case is a massive improvement on the original, along with the base plate that actually stays on, but you can easily remove. These mags are very easy for takedown. You have this massive follower here that would pop up to lock the bolt to the rear, and you can set it to dry fire mode by just holding that down, hitting that switch across, And now that will stay down and you can just keep dry firing, which is cool for movie making. And you can just reset it by hitting that switch and it will now basically stop the bolt once the last round's fired. There is your magazine striker valve, which is amazing, and your fill valve is here at the bottom. It is a silent fill valve, so you don't get any overspray. It's really high quality. And like I say, gas efficiency on this magazine alone, you are looking at, on a warm day, it's about 90 shots. On a cold day like today, it's currently 0 degrees outside, you're going to be looking around about 72 shots, something like that. You're not losing too much because these are massive reservoirs and they do really work. So, an absolute beast, as you would say. Now, when it comes to markings, as you can see on this side, you have your H&K stamp here. There's a small one up here on the receiver. Now, the German official military ones will have a little antler here along with their Bundeswehr proof housing, proof marks here at the top. As this is based off of the American, being the Delta, you don't have that. You do have a lovely HK markings, which are nice, bold, and bright. You have the 417 Delta, the caliber here on the side, nothing to do with 6mm, which is really good. You have your serial number here, and obviously the fire control markings are absolutely awesome. If we move up to the charging handle, this is one of the first things they actually repaired. On the Gen 1, this was all steel and had a very strong actual latch spring on there. And what that would do is, as you was charging the handle, it would eat away at the softer aluminum metal of the receiver, and it would just eat the lock away. And then every time you pull the trigger, the charging handle would just reciprocate into your face. It was funny. So you then have to modify it or buy a Raptor charging handle that was AR10 compatible and swap it out. So what basically VFC did was make this now out of aluminum and a softer spring, because it doesn't really, that's one of the points of this gun that doesn't need to be steel. It just needs to be able to lock and hold, and it does now lock and hold with very little movement, which is nice. You do have your diopter, rear diopter sights, which is windage and elevation adjustable. It's traditional HK rather than the modern flip-up sights on the 416A5 that you've seen. So that's kind of cool. Now, let's spin this gun around and take a look at the other side. Okay, so now that we're on the right side of the gun, as you can see for markings, you've got your Heckler & Koch GmbH, license trademark, etc. That would technically say made in Germany right here. It's easily mistakable. On the front, you do have read owner's manual. That's still stamped at the front, but it's on the real steel, so you have to accept it. Your magazine release is an enlarged giant circle protected by this lovely, race section. It's very easy to get with your trigger finger to, just lift your trigger finger up and tap it, and it will release the mag quite easily. There's not really a strong resistance. That's cool. There's, as you can see, your full size, fire selector. And again, if you don't like the full size, you can swap it out with any real steel AR10 spec, fire selector. So that's entirely up to you. You've got your forward assist right there at the front. Now, if we charge the gun to the rear, you can notice it's locked back quite nicely. If I reach around and lock it up, you've got your HK stamp there on the bolt, and as you can see, your polymer dust cover, which is awesome and huge compared to a standard. Everything on this gun just is basically double in size to the 416. Now, we've had a look at that. Let's move it forward to the barrel. Okay, so now we've got to the handguard with the barrel as well. You can see the handguard is secured via two giant big bolts going through it. There's also a key up here on the top, which is nice and flush, so you can run your optics right the way along the top. Very considerate. The barrel nut goes from about here all the way to about here. And here are two scallop ridges around the barrel nut where the screws will just fit in between without putting too much pressure on the actual barrel, and that would affect zero. The gas piston has been recreated in here, just an FYI for yourselves. and here at the front you have your gas block. Now just inside here is the gas cutoff, which has been replicated, because on the flash hider, as you can see, it is the one that's been fitted with the rifle grenade lock on there. So for some reason, who wants to shoot a rifle grenade in this day and age? Who knows, but it's there. You do have your front sight post on the gas block here, which is a carryover from the older variants of this. Although on the front, if I can turn this around, we should be able to see here, there's a small hole. That hole is for your Allen key that comes with the gun. You basically insert it through the front, and you can adjust the hop of the gun without stripping it down and putting wear and tear on your parts, or just being absolutely time consuming adjusting your hop. They got rid of it. As you can see, the front side here at the front has been cut so that any optics that's seen through will just have a clear view, and it's nothing impairing your optics. If you had an EOTech on there or anything like that, they did cut that top part off. It comes from the factory as is. You do have your front sling mounts, which are ambidextrous. Now, the barrel is steel on this gun. It is a steel barrel, and it is 14mm counterclockwise threaded. So you're able to basically thread on any of your tracer units, lights, lasers, and all that will fit nicely on this. But mainly your tracer units here would run on there, or a mock suppressor if you want to go down there. The inner barrel does run the entire length and goes just past the threads, giving you a 12-inch inner barrel, and for a GBBR that is awesome. Now that we've had a good look at the overview of this rifle, let's take it outside before we bring it back in and take it down. And let's go and get a chrono test done. Okay, I'm using 0.25 BBs with green gas. That's not bad either. Okay, so with an average of 323 FPS, give or take, with 0.25 BBs, let's take it back to about 10 meters and see what the accuracy is like, shooting at a 6-inch by 6-inch square target. Well, I think we can all be happy with that. Okay, so breaking it down, you push your pin through and we can clamshell this open. Now, if I grab hold of the charging handle, I'm able to pull out without smacking my camera out. Pull that out and I'll take the top out. We'll have a look at the trigger group first, because that's the biggest thing in the room, as they say, and one of the big changes. Now, as you can see, first of all, let's release this. One thing you really do want to do is make sure that you have got this set. If I push it down, come on. Okay, so we take the buffer and spring out so it doesn't go launching. Always make sure that you have the hammer cocked when you do take this down, because that will, how would you say, get banged by that buffer as it sometimes flies out. Now, as you can see, I have put some grease on the inner side of the buffer tube here, just as a lip is. Now, the reason for that is when I got this, the first 1,000 rounds, it did stop after that. You could see little bits of worn metal, I would say, collecting in the buffer tube and on the actual bolt carrier. That's just as it's wearing in and things get bedded in. After about 1,000 rounds, it will disappear. I can guarantee that, because it has done it with mine. So not to worry. Now, as you can see, if we get this camera in focus, you have your full steel, full auto sear here. You have your full steel hammer, your hammer sears and disconnects. Everything that you see in this, how to say, trigger group up here is full steel. The firing pin, on the other hand, is steel as well, but that one is stainless steel mixed with a actual tinted steel, or what did he call it, nitrited steel. And you do have quite a few differences compared to the 416. Now, here is your sear lock. Whoop, there we go. Let's put it on there. So, here is your sear lock. If we can get this in focus, there it goes. And what that does is basically lock the sear in the forward position. So if I pull the trigger, as you can see, the sear is now forward and it stays forward. And it's not until the bolt carrier gets to a set point where enough gas has gone to push it all the way back and cycle the gun and then pick up another round and chamber it. Until it gets enough velocity, it won't trip it, but when it does, it will trip and click all the way back out. Ooh, come on, there you go. So I've got to leave my finger there, do I? Oh, come on. It's a pain. Okay, so that's awesome. That's all steel, and the sear on this is based off of the new Gen 3, which has just been released in the 416 variants and AR variants as we speak, and is currently retailing a lot more expensive, how to say, than this. But you do get the Gen 3 sear, hammers, and everything else. And as you can see, for wear and tear, even though she's had just under 3,000 rounds, there's very little, and that is awesome. Now, if we get the gun and we place her on the table, I will show you the buffer. This is the enhanced buffer, which is absolutely awesome. Now, when you get this, you'll realize that the spring is a real steel, how to say, hard spring load and made of steel. The buffer is milled aluminum with a tungsten core in the middle, which is springing, how to say, absorbed here, so it will, like a shake weight, move backwards and forwards and stop the anti-bounce. You can purchase these as the enhanced buffer kit separately for like £60, but this one comes with the gun, so it saves you a lot of money. Now, the one thing you'll notice on mine is some nice oil. I did place that because here around the chamfered rim of the buffer, that's where the metal shards were actually coming from, was from the spring. As it, how to say, rubs on the softer aluminum, it would start to wear in. So what I did was just put some silicone grease around there and a little bit around the lip inside the buffer tube just to stop any wear. But as you can see, there is no wear from the buffer or anything else. So that kind of kept it long, how to say, long-lived is the best way of trying to word that. Now, here's the thing. Because it's hard to put into picture what size this gun is compared to, how to say, the 416, this is a 416 bolt carrier group. That's around about 8,000 rounds through it. And as you can see, it's nice. It's had its worn-in markings on there, as you can see. But it's a big, lovely bolt carrier. This is the 417. Now, if I put them side by side like this, you can see the big difference. Now, one of the big updates, that was the Gen 1 style. As you can see from the tail end, it was nice and smooth. Now, if we move that out of the way, the Gen 2 features these lovely ribbed sections that fit perfectly into the buffer tube, so therefore don't cause too much wear and tear or rattle as it's going backwards and forwards or just carrying it. Normally you would hear the bolt rattling around. So yeah, that's a great option. As you can see, it is hollow just like all the others. Now, moving back, as you can see, there's a plenty load of grease on this because it is absolutely needed. But yes, you do have your forward assist tracks, which you can actually, how to say, update the forward assist on there to actually bite on it if you need a forward assist, but this is airsoft, so you don't. One of the other updates they made was to the nozzle itself. This is an impasse nozzle. It works. It is spring-loaded, which helps it absorb some of the impact when it goes into battery, which is great. It also stops the bolt bounce, and you've got the longer nozzle, but it is an impasse one, so you just put an Allen key down the nozzle, and I believe it's a 1.5 5mm Allen key, if I'm right. And then you can just turn it either way to adjust the power. So in the winter, you can crank up the power, and in the, the summer, crank it down to your site legal limit, which is absolutely phenomenal. And as I can see, your charging handle difference. This is an AR15 from the 416. This one is a AR10, and it's considerably bigger and longer. You can actually take that extended lug that's on the side or latch off and put it on this if you really wish, and it will fit and work perfectly. So, as you can see already, they've made an update to the buffer tube. Here, they've updated the bolt design to make that more reliable. They changed the charging handle to make that better on your rifle. So we're already winning at this point. But they also made a big change to the actual hop chamber. Now, the hop chamber in here is absolutely huge. It sits about that big. Oh, I'm going to say that big. It's really, really big in there. And it's easily accessible by removing the handguard, undoing the barrel nut. The whole front barrel comes out, and you can just pull out the, hop chamber, and that. It's full aluminum milled, so you have a full metal build in there, which is brilliant. No more of this polymer junk that would crack like with your GHKs, because anyone who buys an AR from GHK or an AK, they all know it comes with a plastic hop chamber, and with that big bolt smacking it, it lasts a few mags before it starts to crack, and then your accuracy is all over the place, and you've just spent £1,000 on these rifles on average. It's ridiculous. So they gave you a full metal with the new guide hop, making it more, accurate out of the box. And of course, the actual hop arm is steel with an aluminum shoe, and you have your stamped steel actual arm inside the hop that will be lifted up and pushed down and apply pressure to the actual bucking inside. The bucking being a TNT bucking out the factory. You might get some of the blue ones. Again, it depends on who manufactured it and where one, or what the actual supplies were like at VFC, because it's just like every other company. While they've got them, you'll find the TNT. If they're not, it's their new blue bucking. If it is the blue bucking though, you will really need to put a lot of rounds down range to get this broken in. That bucking tends to be a bit too soft and too tight at the hole that the nozzle can't seat 100%, and therefore you need to swap that out for something a little bit better, or just put 500 rounds or more through it and it should easily start to work, especially if you mag dump it on full auto. You'll make it fit, as they say, and feed better. But yeah, so basically that was all completely redesigned, meaning that many of the fears that this gun had has been allayed, let's say, and you can now buy one of these with confidence. The only issue I have had with this gun since I purchased it was here at the pin. One thing you can't see anymore is there is no wobble. When I got it, there was a receiver wobble between the upper and lower at the front. When the gun was shut, there was no wobble, but when you opened it, there was a huge amount of wobble there. How I fixed it was by getting a shim that was 12 millimeters wide and had a 6mm hole. I put it in a vise and used a press drill and just extended that 6mm hole to 6.5. And that shim would fit directly in. Now, for those of you who are not tech savvy or mechanically savvy like that, who could do it, even though anyone can do it if you're willing to just try, you can actually buy an AR-10 RARTEC pin that's adjustable. Just swap out the front pin. There is one on my AR-15, the Mark 18 that I have. I just did that for safety's sake when I got it, even though I didn't need to, but that pin for the AR-15 won't fit on this because this is AR-10. It's a little bit wider and bigger. But if you get the AR-10 version of it, you can pop out your front pin, slide in another one, and away you go. So, yeah. And all you do is adjust it down with an Allen key, and it will open and close, no problem. It'll stay in, and it'll open and close. You don't have to unscrew anything else or do anything ever again. You can just do that, unless you want to take the entire upper off, and then just loosen the hex screw a tiny bit and remove it that way. But yeah, other than that, This gun is absolutely beautiful and amazing, and I would highly recommend it. Now let's get this put back together and give final thoughts. Okay, so now that the gun's all back together, as you can see, it is an absolute beautiful piece of kit. And if you've gotten to this point in the video, I would really appreciate that you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and a comment. And today, I'd like you to comment, what would you add to this gun to make it even better for CQB? As you can see, I haven't put any lights or laser units on there, and that's just basically an optic with a wide aperture lens, so that I could easily see. Because CQB, you really need more peripheral vision than you do long range, so that's why I went with that. So if any suggestions that you would add to this gun to make it even better, I'd love to hear it in the comment. And the ones that I like, I will actually pick out and I will do. And I'll probably make an update video, see how she's running in another 3,000 rounds and see how she's going. So if you can do that. Now, my opinions on this gun. Now the Gen 1 came out, like I say, back in 2013, so 10 years ago, give or take. And it was absolutely a nightmare. My good friend Bada Bing, who is an absolute awesome gentleman and a scholar, you should go and check his channel out. He did a series of videos where you saw him on this nightmare trip with it, where he was so excited at first and it just sort of like went downhill from there. With this, I went in kind of like the reverse. It was a nightmare at first because I was scared that it was going to be a repeat and they didn't do much. But those fears pretty much straight away went away. Yes, I had a receiver wobble being the only issue, and it was resolved with a literal 25 pence piece part and 2 minutes of my time and a press drill. And that thing now is in there. It's not glued in. It's not damaging the weapon. I'm not modifying the weapon in any way. I just literally push the pin through, and then the last little place, put that little, shim through as it went into the other side of the receiver. And that was it. That's only been my issue. The fragments of metal that you will see, the wear and tear, that's steel on aluminum. It's to be expected as it breaks in. But once it gets to a set point, it stopped. I've had no actual shards of aluminum, no shiny bits in any of the cleaning that I've done on this gun intermittently. It's been completely the same. And that to me is absolutely amazing. That's great. You know, you've seen how the 416 bolt looks. It looks a heck of a lot worse than the 417 because of the improvements that they made with this gun, learning from all the different variants that they've done. In between the Gen 1, Gen 2, you had the G28, which got some updates, but the hot barrel and all the rest, all that sort of like front end of the gun and the bolt of the gun, that was all Gen 1. And so paying £1,000 for a G28, it's stupid in today's mind. And that's without the optics that you need for it. So again, at £440, this gun, whichever SKU you go for, you're looking from $440 for the Delta, $460 for the 16-inch, and just under $500 for the 20-inch barrel variant. You can pretty much build whichever version of the 417 you want. It will fit any mil-spec handguards. It fits any mil-spec parts in there. It will do. If you've got a mil-spec two-stage trigger, you can probably fit that in this. I would say you could, because this is all mil-spec. So, yeah, you're getting an absolute phenomenal rifle at a cheaper price, you know. The KWA is currently sitting at about £500, thereabouts, plus shipping, which is ridiculous and is highly inaccurate. The VFC one, people have had that horrible burning from the first one, so they've got that, rightfully so, horrible feeling inside. I would say, if you've got the money and you want a full power cartridge battle rifle, buy this. It's a heck of a lot better than you think, and you'll be really happy. The magazines, so gas efficient, so durable, really well built. The internals are steel now and milled aluminum where they need to be. You've got the ability to keep this gun running all year round with the M-Pass. The anti-bolt how to say, bounce system is brilliant on this. It's a massive improvement. And the accuracy is there. The only thing it favors is the heavier weight BBs to get it going further enough to be straight if you want to use it outdoors. But indoors, you're not going to shoot past 10 meters indoors. So you could get away with 0.25s and up anyway. You know, as 2.5s will reach out to 20 meters thereabouts before starting to curve up. You know, it's one of those. And I guess you could always play with it, tinker with it, etc. You can do what you want. You could swap the inner barrel out for a Maple Leaf Crazy Jet if you wish. And that'll probably extend your range anyway. But the future is up to you. All I can tell you is I have been really, really amazed by this. And this is a pride and joy in my wall. I love this gun. And so with that, I've been the Middle-Aged Gamer. You guys have been absolutely amazing. And I will see you in the next one.